Hello everyone, Squeaky from the future here. After finishing the recording of this video, I actually noticed that the mic was not recording. So the mic you will be hearing is the microphone on the actual camera, but I've done my best to make it sound nice, and I've also added some subtitles for your viewing pleasure. Alright, bye!
Goblins. Green, small, mischievous, sometimes malicious. Big nose, big ears, flaky body. Maybe not flaky, but very leathery, Goblins pretty much look the same all over the world, to a degree. In some cultures, they're even completely invisible to the naked eye, but they still look the same. How can this be? Today we're gonna find out. Alright everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Left in the Dark podcast-ish, kind of. It's, at this point, not really one, but I called it that in the first episode, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Today we're gonna be talking about goblins. Goblins, like I said, can be found all over Europe and even in some other parts of the world, but their origins remain unknown. And in fact, not much about the mystery of the goblin is known. The color being green, for example, is actually just a modern view of goblins. They were not always green. They were actually always a yellow reddish color. It's actually very probable that thanks to the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Series 1 edition that released all the way back in 1986 is the reason why goblins are green, because they were green in that game, and it's a very popular game, and now they are green. And also the color green is a universal color for envy and mischief and greed. Not only are we unsure of what a goblin actually looks like, we're also unsure of where they come from. And there really is no concrete answer to where goblins come from, because they are very much like fairies in European and German folklore and Scottish folklore as well. They just kind of appeared, kind of just waddled around and started enchanting and thieving. A lot of scholars believe that they come from paganism, because it has a very interest in mysticism and nature and the forest and fairies and goats, I think, which I think makes sense, because I feel like the people that would make this kind of stuff up, or not make this up, that would see these things. And Sir Walter Scott, a very influential Scottish novelist, actually believed that the goblins shared a very similar caricature to the Sami people, which seems kind of racially motivated, in my opinion, but take that how you will. I guess maybe because they wear the like, what do you call the Yule hats or something, but who knows, maybe the Vikings were very big and the Sami people were very small, and so they thought they were greedy or something. I'm not gonna make this a race thing, except for the French, because a lot of people actually also believe that goblins are just little French people that came from a cleft of the Pyrenees Mountains and then spread not only throughout Europe, but some people's backyards. Oh yeah. They rode to America, or took a ferry or something, but they crossed the water. And how do I know they did this? Well, you have the legendary Goblin of Canada, for one. Huge goblin, sightings everywhere in what are Canadian places, Quebec, Ontario, stuff like that. Just doing Canadian things, apologizing and being nice, I guess. He is legendary though, seriously. There is a legendary Goblin of Canada. I'm not making this up. But what if they waddled down? They went away from all the cold weather in Canada and all the nice people, and they went to the warm weather and the very mean people down south. That's a joke. Alright, I hear people down south are very nice. Well, it would go something like this. Ronnie Cobblepot grew up in an old house somewhere in the south of America, in the middle of nowhere. Also, this guy's name wasn't really Ronnie Cobblepot, but for discretion, I'm going to call him Ronnie Cobblepot. So that's his name now. Ronnie Cobblepot lived in this house in the south, in the middle of nowhere. But this house was no ordinary house. This house was special. That's what no ordinary means. This house had a layout much like a ring or a circle. You could go from one room, run through all the other rooms, and end up back where you started. It was a circle, That's how circles work. And one day, Ronnie Cobblepot, he was playing with his sister, Jeff Cobblepot. They were playing some chase, and they were running around this ring, and they'd actually been going a couple laps, but one lap when Ronnie runs into the living room, in the corner of his eye, or in the corner of the living room, one of those details, he spots this little green creature, very short. He's got a big nose, big ears, classic goblin. Ronnie doesn't remember everything, but he remembers it being very small. And Ronnie was about 8 at the time, I'm pretty sure the story says, and he could tell it was smaller than him, so probably about 2 feet tall. Now Ronnie, of course, gets really terrified from this little mischievous creature in the dining room. And another detail he mentions is that the little creature had a very big grin and had his finger in front of his mouth, like grinning and telling the kid to shut up. While the kid, being a kid, of course, was terrified and screamed. Coming to a full stop, his sister running into him. They fly all over the room, bounce everywhere, starts crying, starts screaming. Mother runs in, like, what the hell is going on? But the creature was gone. It just vanished, or maybe it turned invisible. Or maybe they shot it, and it became part of the walls. And that's pretty much just the general gist of the story. It's a little bit more detailed. You can check it out for yourself. I'll link it in the description. Ronnie has had a hard time telling this story for people because he feels like he would be embarrassed or laughed at, which I think is pretty right to think. I'm just kidding. No, I think we should be telling these stories so that I can make content out of them. And this story also bothered him a lot growing up because it would terrify him. There were also other cases of paranormal stuff happening at his house, disembodied voices, things moving, stuff like that. Classic goblin stuffs. And Ronnie for a long time believed, or wanted to believe, that was part of his imagination, if not for the fact that his sister, Jeff, also saw the mischievous little grinning thing, and she just wanted to rip its head off. I don't know if that's true, but I think that's what you would want to do after a couple of years of being haunted by this thing. And also his mother remembering the very true terror in their faces. They did see something. Maybe it wasn't a goblin, but it was something. And even though Ronnie did search for years for an answer, he never could find one. This little green thing that he saw in his corner together with his sister, he still does not know what it is, and it still haunts him to this day. Now, I do not have a picture or anything of this thing, but I do have some videos I want to show you guys. This, for example, is the legendary Goblin of Canada. I want you to just take a look at it and tell me what you think in the comments.
Lo voy a matar.
Wow, that is legendary. No, I like to make fun of these things, but I'm actually a very big believer in the mystics. I genuinely believe that Bigfoot is real, and possibly even goblins. And I've seen many gnomes, so I know those are real. I got attacked by one last video. You should check it out. What it comes down to is there are a lot of sightings of these small little mischievous critters, and I think sharing your story on them should be okay and should be listened to, because even if it isn't real, it's one hell of a entertaining story. So I've got a challenge for you guys. I want you to write in the comments the most absurd or weird or funky, mischievous thing you've seen that you just cannot explain. Anything. It could be anything. Any weird noises, animals, green little creatures, literally anything. And I am going to read those comments in the next video, and I am going to react to them and discuss them. And if we get enough, it'll be a separate thing. If we don't get enough, which we probably won't, because I have like 6 people who watch these. Thank you, 6 people, I love you. I will just put them in the next in the next Left in the Dark podcast episode, which is not a podcast, but it kind of is now. Oh, and if you are in the middle of Sweden, in the middle of nowhere, in the woods sometime, just hit me up and we can do an episode together. I think that would be very fun. Probably my favorite bit of this whole goblin thing is the fact that the color green most likely came from the Warhammer Fantasy games, which is so incredibly funny to me because it's such a stupid, it's not a stupid game series or roleplay series or whatever. It's actually very great. It's very fun, but it knows it's stupid. And I think it does a very good job at doing that. And knowing that there's a very big probability that thanks to those games, the goblin is now green, this is just incredibly funny. I don't think the legendary goblin of Canada is green though, but you don't know. Maybe he is. He is legendary, so he could be a different color. Maybe he's gold, like a Fortnite skin. Alright, I've been rambling on enough. I want to thank you guys for making it to this part. If you did make it to this part, which you did because you're hearing this part. And I want to thank you guys for liking and subscribing and smashing that bell and leaving your mischievous, weird stories that you can't explain in the comments. I want to see those, okay? You 6 people watching me. Alright, that's it. I've been your host, Squeaky. This has been the Left in the Dark podcast-ish, kind of. Not really. I hope you enjoyed and stay mischievous.